Good morning, and I'd like to call the July 8th Committee of Adjustment meeting to order. We'll have the adoption of the agenda. Moved by Member Stokes, second by Member Bridgman. Be it resolved that Committee of Adjustment dated July 8th, 2024 be adopted. All those in favor? It's carried. And are there any declarations of conflict of interest? Seeing none, we'll have the adoption of the minutes. Moved by Member Brown. Oh, sorry. Moved by Member Bridgman. Second by Member Brown. Be it resolved that Committee of Adjustment minutes dated June 10th, 2024 be adopted and approved as circulated. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That's carried. Okay.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome. It is required that I make a few statements, then I will explain the hearing procedures. This electronic hearing is being held in accordance with Section 238 of the Municipal Act 2001. The members of the Committee of Adjustment present are Alan Edwards, Barb Bridgman, Ruth Ann Brown, Lisa Grogan Green, and Sean Stokes. I can confirm we have quorum and that senior staff and planning staff are present. Public input on this July 8th agenda was invited at the following email address, planning@muskokalakes.ca. Now I will explain the hearing process. The planner will provide an explanation and purpose of the application, the date the notice was circulated, and planning staff's comments. All internal and external submissions have been provided to committee members by Friday, July 5th, 2024. The planner will present any submissions received after this date. The committee will hear from the applicant or the applicant's agent if they wish to add any information or to substantiate their proposal. Please provide your name, mailing address, and postal code for our records. The committee will hear from those in support of the application and those in opposition to the application. Again, please provide your name, mailing address, and postal code for our records. Presentations are limited to 5 minutes unless otherwise permitted by the committee. If you are here to speak on an application electronically, please wait until after the planner presents the relevant application to raise your hand in Zoom. If you are here to speak on an application in person, when asked, please raise your hand, and when you are recognized by the chair, please approach the podium and turn on the microphone and remain at the podium while you state your comments for recording purposes. The committee will hear from the applicant or the applicant's agent to respond to any questions or concerns raised. The committee will then have the opportunity to ask questions, have a debate on the application, and make a decision based on the information presented at the hearing. Please note that the effect of written and oral submissions on decisions for consent and minor variances, along with the reasons for minor variance decisions, are both required under the Planning Act, and motions are pre-populated with standard wording. However, the committee may decide to add reasons and/or effects to the standard wording after voting on a decision. Motions have been pre-populated with random movers and seconders to expedite the meeting and are automatically written in the positive to assist in completing decisions as opposed to writing out each resolution. This does not in any way mean an application is going to be approved. When it is time to vote, members shall physically raise their hand until the chair has confirmed the vote. If the vote is unclear, a verbal vote shall be recorded. This is not considered a recorded vote. It must be noted the chair has a vote on each application and can participate in the discussion. There is a 20-day appeal period from the date of the decision. Building permits are not available until after the appeal period and if no appeals are received. Lastly, please take down the pink notice signs that were posted on your property to advertise today's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The first application is A2624, and that is Ms. Heron.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The first application to be heard is minor variance A2624 in the name of ARGIROS. The subject lands are known municipally as 1848 Mortimers Point Road, Unit 9. I would like to direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 27 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is to demolish an existing garage and to construct a dwelling addition consisting of an enclosed family/sunroom, hallway, and a two-story garage with living space above. Notice of the public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 12 days in advance of this meeting, and 3 comments have been received to date. Comments were received from Tim Sobko, the Township's Manager of Public Works, Nick Schneider, the Township's Chief of Building Official, stating no objection to the application. The proposed variances are summarized on the screen. This table was included in the circulation material and can be found in the agenda package. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the application be approved. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is the applicant or applicant's agent here wishing to speak on this?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, Mr. Chair, members of committee. I'm Stefan Sherbach, planner with Planscape Inc., 104 Kimberley Avenue in Bracebridge. I'm here today representing the ARGIROS family, and I appreciate the additional time to make a few comments for your consideration. First of all, again, thanks to staff for their efforts addressing all the questions that we had throughout this process. And as mentioned in the report and shown on some of the photographs, the property has some topographical constraints leading from the flat parking area towards the lake. The dwelling additions are all generally located in areas that are cleared and fairly level. The constraints sort of fall with the existing development. And as again shown in the staff report, due to the extensive shoreline vegetation, the proposed works will generally not be seen when viewing the property from the water. The additional lot coverage to 10.9% accounts for approximately 520 square feet of additional coverage. All of this development is situated in excess of 80 feet from the water. With respect to the height request, the second variance, because the dwelling is situated lower than the existing garage, the proposed addition will obviously step up onto the landscape. And when taking into consideration the definition of height in the zoning bylaw, you have to measure the structure from the absolute bottom of the existing dwelling waterside structure all the way to the top of the two-story addition. So if this were a separate structure, as clearly shown on page I believe it's 5 of 9 in your staff report showing the profile of the property. If this were a separate structure, it would be actually slightly lower than the maximum height restrictions for the proposed development. With respect to the 4 tests for reviewing a minor variance application, I fully agree and support staff's assessment together with a thorough policy review. That's clearly articulated in the report and in the planning justification report. Mr. Chair, I support the recommendation in front of you and respectfully request that the committee also support this application. If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. Thank you.
Excuse me, for the record, could you give us your name and address?
Oh, sorry. Yep, Stefan Sherbach with Planscape Inc., 104 Kimberley Avenue in Bracebridge.
Postal code?
P1L 1Z8.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else here wishing to speak in support of this application? Anyone in opposition to this application? Other questions from the members? Moved by member Bridgman, second by member Stokes. Be it resolved that application A2624 ARGIROS to demolish an existing detached garage and to construct a dwelling addition consisting of an enclosed family/sunroom, a hallway, a two-story garage with a living space above is hereby approved with the following variance being granted. 1, permit a maximum lot coverage of 6,420 square feet. That is 10.9%. within 200 feet of the high water mark. 2, to permit a maximum height of 43 feet for a dwelling addition. These variances are granted as shown on a plan attached to the notice of decision. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That's carried.
Thank you, committee. Have a good day.
Thank you. And the next application is A34 Overend, and that is Ms. Aaron.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A3424 in the name of OVEREND. The subject lands are known municipally as 1256 Dudley Road, Unit 21. I would like to direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 46 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is to remove an existing sleeping cabin and tool shed and to construct a new sleeping cabin in its place. Notice of the public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 12 days in advance of this meeting, and 2 comments were received to date. Comments were received from Tim Sobko, the Township's Manager of Public Works, and Nick Schneider, the Township's Chief of Building Official, stating no objection to the application. The proposed variances are summarized as shown on the screen. This table was included in the circulation material and can be found in the agenda package. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the application be approved subject to the following condition: that a satisfactory site plan agreement be entered into and registered on title, along with securities for the retention of vegetation and or planting to retain and revegetate the shoreline buffer. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is the applicant or applicant's agent here wishing to speak on this? No one, is anyone in support? Anyone in objection? Okay. Are there any questions from the members? Moved by Member Brown, second by Member Grogan Green. Be it resolved that application A3424 Overend to demolish an existing sleeping cabin and tool shed and to construct a new sleeping cabin is hereby approved, with the following variance being granted: to permit a minimum front yard setback of 23 feet at the closest point to the sleeping cabin. This variance is granted as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision and is subject to the following conditions: 1, that a satisfactory site plan agreement be entered into and registered on title, along with securities for retention of the existing vegetation and plantings to retain and revegetate the shoreline buffer. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That's carried. The next application is A42, and that's Ms. Beamish.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A4224 in the name of HOOEY. The subject lands are known municipally as 1254 Barlochan Road, Unit 20. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plans on page 67 and 68 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is to increase the floor area of an existing dwelling through the construction of a basement addition. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 13 days in advance of this meeting, and 2 comments have been received to date. Comments were received from Tim Sobko, the Township's Manager of Public Works, and Nick Schneider, the Township's Chief Building Official, both stating no objection to the application. The proposed variance is summarized as shown on the screen. This table was included in the circulation materials and can be found in the agenda package. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the application be approved, subject to the following: that a satisfactory site plan agreement be entered into and registered on title, along with securities for retention of the shoreline buffer and plantings. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee.
Thank you very much. Is the applicant or applicant's agent here wishing to speak on this? No one? Anyone in support? Anyone in opposition? Questions from the members? Excuse me. Moved by member Stokes, second by member Bridgman, be it resolved that application A 4224 HOOEY to increase the floor area of an existing dwelling through the construction of a basement is hereby approved, with the following variance being granted. 1, to permit a minimum front yard setback to be 26 feet at the closest point for a dwelling. This variance is granted as shown on a plan attached to the notice of decision and is subject to the following condition. 1, that a satisfactory site plan agreement be entered into and registered on title, along with securities for retention of the existing vegetation and planting. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That's carried. The next application is A 4324, and that is Ms. Mikes.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A 4324 in the name of HIMEL. The subject lands are known municipally as 1246 Purdy Road, Unit Number 2. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 88 of the agenda package. The application proposes to demolish 2 existing docks and reconstruct one of the docks at a greater length and in a slightly different configuration. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 12 days in advance of this meeting, and 5 comments have been received to date. Comments were received from Tim Sopko, the Township's Manager of Public Works, as well as Nick Snyder, the Township's Chief Building Official, both stating no objection to the application. 3 letters of opposition were received from area landowners on Friday, July 5th, after the deadline for circulation to committee. A letter of opposition was submitted by Susan and Steve Davies, area landowners to the northwest, stating that the request for an additional 10.3 feet of docking is excessive and unnecessary, and that the current owners currently have a nice sitting area, and suggesting they further add to the existing boathouse dock if they are looking for additional seating. Staff can read this letter in full at the request of committee. But that basically summarizes it. A second letter of opposition was received by Jeff O'Brien, area landowner to the east, stating that the new proposed dock is disingenuously characterized as a swim dock and actually measures larger than the application is proposing. They state that the new dock would crowd the shoreline, giving the appearance of a marina, and also bring up some environmental concerns, stating that the owner did some work on their dock last year and industrial equipment had leaked oil into the water, and that would be a concern for fish habitat and vegetation. Staff can also read this letter in full at the request of committee. The third letter of opposition was received from Marie Poirier and Cassie Sauer of Marie Poirier Planning and Associates, Inc. on behalf of an area landowner to the east. The letter is 11 pages in length and provides an in-depth planning analysis. However, staff can summarize, or I can read the letter in full at your request. You'd like a summary? Okay. So to summarize, they would like to convey that the construction of a 23 foot 8-inch by 50 dock on a shoreline, on this shoreline is excessive and unnecessary. They further state that the owners already have a large existing dock and boathouse, and an additional dock of this length opens up the area to be used as an entertainment space, potentially including lounge chairs, barbecues, sound systems, and boats, severely reducing the privacy and serenity for the northeasterly neighbor. They state some environmental concerns as well and safety concerns around boat traffic. They conclude that the proposal does not represent responsible planning and is not consistent with the relevant policies, nor does it satisfy the 4 tests of a minor variance, and respectfully request that the application be denied. So the proposed variance is summarized as shown on the screen. The table was included in the circulation materials and can be found in the agenda package.
So,
Staff.
yeah, Jared, just with respect to those other letters, so there were 3 additional letters sent on Friday, correct?
There were 3 letters sent on Friday,
And you
yes.
summarized the first 2. Are those ones, could I hear those ones? I didn't quite understand the first
Yeah.
concern about I think he was complaining about the measurements, the actual measurements of the dock as opposed to what's on the
No problem.
application.
Yeah, so the first letter is from Susan and Steve Davies. And they state to the Township of Muskoka Lakes Planning Department, with respect to this matter, we feel that the request for an additional 10.3 or 10.3 feet of docking is excessive and unnecessary. Currently, they have a nice sitting area with multiple chairs that appear ample for the purpose of socializing. As opposed to adding additional width to their dock where they have dock chairs, they could simply remove that sitting area dock and add that to the existing boathouse dock, which would give them additional sitting area that they are apparently looking for. I believe most cottagers would want more dock space. However, we have to be aware of the problems that this creates to the environment when adding more density on the lakes. For the reasons stated, we oppose this request. Sincerely, Susan and Steve Davies, 1222 Purdy Road.
So that was the one that was circulated, and then is there
Okay.
3 additional or 2?
Only 2 additional.
So the 11-page one and then
This
another
other one that I'm
Okay.
about to,
Okay,
yeah. So hello, my name is Jeff O'Brien and I am the neighbor adjacent to Ron and Naomi HIMEL, AKA the owner applicant. My cottage is on their east side at 1246 Purdy Road. I am in absolute opposition to their inappropriate attempt to build such a massive new dock, which is entirely too large for their waterfront. They have disingenuously characterized the structure as a swim dock, when in fact it measures 50 feet by 23 feet 8 inches. The proposed dock is so large and it would crowd the shoreline so much as to result in the appearance of a marina. Such a scheme would cheapen the value of the neighborhood. I am also very concerned about the environmental impact. Last year, the owner applicant did major work on their docks and the industrial equipment was constantly leaking massive amounts of oil. The massive oil spill lingered for over a month and covered my waterfront a half a kilometer away. My guests first noticed it while swimming through it. I also saw a fish and a turtle swimming through it. Our neighborhood is also well known for its fish spawning. Unnecessarily overbuilding will serve to destroy wildlife and important vegetation needlessly. And I strongly urge the township to put environmental and community considerations first and deny this overreaching application. Sincerely, Jeff O'Brien.
thank you.
And
Nope. No, you don't need to read the 11-page
Okay,
letter.
thank you.
I thought I had said that already.
yeah, so based on analysis, staff have recommended this application be approved. Staff have no further comments, but are happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Right, thank you very much. And is the agent or owner here to speak on this?
That's better. Thank you. My name's Jack, from Jack Lorenz from the Conan Group, 3 Armstrong Point Road, Port Carling, Ontario. P0B1J0. The applicant's agent for the application. We have the applicant here as well. We're just here to sort of add some clarification. So regarding the first letter, the existing swim dock, if we can pull up the site plan. That's okay. Okay. So regarding the width of the docks, is we're actually reducing the overall cumulative width, which is sort of an increase. Getting closer to the conformance of the bylaw. And as far as the width of the proposed swim docks are in the middle there, we're not actually increasing the width at all. We're just projecting straight out. I think in that first letter, they're saying, hey, we should move that red section of dock over to the boathouse, which we sort of cannot do within the bylaw. It's not an option as well. We'd be better off extending this center dock so that we're closer to conformance. Otherwise, we're increasing the width again, and it's becoming more out of conformance. Regarding the second letter, it's sort of hard to tell if there'd be any environmental impacts. It's a steel pile dock, which makes very minimal contact with the shoreline or with the lake bed. Whether or not those machines actually leaked, we don't know. There's no proof. That wouldn't have been something that would have been to do with the owner at all. A lot of boat motors do leak oil, and it's hard to say whether or not that did come from the development. They did have appropriate permits for that, and all work was done in accordance with the MNRF. So no further comments unless committee has any questions. Thanks.
Is there anyone else here who speak in support of this application? Is there anyone here wishing to speak in opposition to this application? Yes, sir.
Good morning. Still on? Perfect. Good morning, everyone. Brett Lindros, 85 Crescent Road, Toronto, Ontario. Mary 4 William, 1 Thomas 7. I am responsible for the 11-page long-winded to some degree done by Marie Poirier Planning. I'm in opposition of this application. The extra 10 and change feet to an already tight area is excessive and unnecessary given what is currently there. Speaking to what we're looking at right now, even going back to the applicant's plan, neither of the two docks that we see on this application are on a survey. I've printed off a survey. I have a survey from Rakes that was performed a number of years ago, and neither show that either of these swim platform or the dock, the swim platform has the chairs, or the dock to the left, right beside my boathouse, is on a survey. So this has been put together on a site plan, but not necessarily surveyed. So to suggest that we're condensing two docks and going out isn't necessarily the case. I'd love to see a survey if that is the case, that they are, I guess, amalgamating two existing docks as far as width. So I'm not sure that's a concern. Marie had some concerns as well about whether or not this is considered a minor variance. I'll let Township and Marie use their expertise and knowledge about whether or not that's a situation that, but it's certainly not in my experience. More than that, it's really a situation when we have two large boathouses already existing. We're talking about putting in what is, in this application considered a swim dock, going out 50 feet for a swim dock and 23 and change, 24 feet by 50 feet seems quite excessive for a swim dock. There's certainly environmental concerns. There was major work done, as the other neighbor pointed out. This work was done mid-summer, which was interesting to say the least. Irrespective of that, there was a number of oil leak situations with the work that was being done. I actually, do you have Marie's pictures, if you will? I think it'd be good for Township to see as well, sort of proximity to the other boathouse, my boathouse, the adjacent neighbor, to get an idea of kind of the crowding that was discussed by the other neighbors that they're objecting to. There were certainly environmental concerns, fishing, even kids off the dock, getting, putting on a worm. There was no fish to be had for about at least a month plus. There was continual oil slick. So that is their existing. This is the docks. So if we look at the second one down, you can see the chairs, and then there's another smaller dock. There's my tin boat. That dock there is not on a survey. Neither is the one with the chairs as far as I could find. Again, happy to see that if that is actually the case. So we're, in my mind, what we're doing now is we're just extending out and building a new dock. It's not a swim dock. There's certainly, you know, if you're going out 50 feet, that would certainly accommodate boating. There's safety concerns with swimming. And then there are environmental concerns, certainly. Although the applicant's planner sort of poo-pooed that, but you know, coming out and putting that many steel piles in, if you keep going down through the pictures, please. This is what we looked at for a month last year. And was significant. I mean, talk about middle of the summer, lack of peace. Again, people have to do work. I understand that. But these machines, especially this equipment here, there was constant oil slicks in the lake. And if we scroll down maybe a little bit more, please, there's some more pictures. This is actually a good example to show how close our boathouses are. You know, to put a 24-foot dock in between us that would extend almost to the edge of both of these, not the docks, but the boathouse structure themselves, again, seems excessive and unnecessary. They already have a nice swim platform. And then if we scroll down one more, thank you. Yeah, this is what we looked at for the month of August in and around our boathouse. And again, fish and habitat, environmental concerns, certainly safety concerns around swimming and mooring of boats. They already have a really, you know, a nice substantial boathouse. Everything around this application, certainly asking for this variance seems very excessive and unnecessary. Thank you.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to this application? Yes, you may.
Just to be clear, if you can pull the site plan one more time, sorry. So again, that dock that is closest to the neighbors is being removed. And that center dock is just the one being extended. No additional width is being added to it. And again, as far as environmental concerns, I've designed hundreds of steel pile docks, and environmental issues are generally never the concern. Whether there's issues during construction with the contractor, that is not to do with the client themselves. That's strictly a contractor issue, and that should be addressed, of course, but there's unfortunately nothing we can do with that. So,
Okay, thank you. I'll ask once again, is there anyone else here wishing to speak in opposition to this application?
Hello, good afternoon. My name's Ann Purdy, 1218 Purdy Road, box 88, Windermere, POB 1PO. I do strongly oppose this. The construction going on in this property has been ongoing.
Excuse me, can you just move the mic down?
Sorry. Construction seems to be going on quite constantly in this area, and we don't really need that in Muskoka. They have ample space for their seating arrangements, even presently, and to add to it makes no sense at all. It's more of an irritant and an act that is just not necessary. And I do strongly oppose it. I live 2 cottages away, and I have a lot of older children that come with my grandchildren. I don't need any more boats or a marina type situation any further in Muskoka. And if you were where I live, you would understand the situation as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to this application? Other questions from the members? We'll start with Member Bridgman.
Well, perhaps you want to start with Member Stokes, because I have a lot of questions.
Okay.
So.
Hey, go ahead, Member Stokes.
Oh, I just wanted to ask staff, just in light of the letters that were received and the conversations that have just been had, if I realize that in your report, there were no issues with respect to environmental concerns or requests for studies, et cetera. Has that changed at all? Is there any reason to believe that there's issues that should be reviewed?
Go ahead.
Yep, through you, Chair Edwards, and thank you for your question. The Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry has identified the area fronting the shoreline as type 2 fish habitat, not type 1. Type 1 is typically spawning habitat that's tends to be limiting for fish populations, whereas type 1 general fish habitat is not, so it's less sensitive. The township doesn't regulate considerations such as oil slicks or in-water work that may affect fish habitat. That's something that falls under the jurisdiction of the Federal Department of Fisheries and Oceans. And as part of conducting in-water work, as we've noted in our staff report, the applicant's obligations under the Fisheries Act would be to either retain a qualified environmental professional or themselves to complete a review of the Department of Fisheries and Oceans website to determine whether a review by the department is required, and if it is, they'd be obligated to do that. So it's a somewhat of a self-assessment process or tool that's used by the Department of Fisheries and Oceans. So staff in this case have not raised any red flags with respect to fish habitat or other environmental concerns. The applicants would be obligated under the Fisheries Act to avail themselves of whatever those obligations are and make sure that they're following through on it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Member Bridgman.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. My first question is the work that was done last summer. You have to have a permit from here unless you go to the Ministry of Natural Resources. So please help me understand what was done last summer.
So the existing dock underneath the existing boathouse was replaced
Okay.
with just steel pile dock, so.
Okay, thank you. The oil slick, I hope some of you made complaints somewhere to an environmental agency, because to speak to Mr. Sharp's point, that's what had to happen. It's not part of planning. And so I hope the neighbors, because I can see that you're very upset about it, are making complaints to the proper agencies about this kind of thing. It can't be a consideration by me because it's not about the planning. But further to that, and the survey, I do not believe we need to have those docks on what's submitted to the department, to the planning department, and that may be an issue. But again, it's not required at this point, so I just wanted to answer that to you. Mr. Sharp, I know that when we have legal non-complying docks, we put in new regulations about extending those docks out to 66 feet. Would you please help me in this situation? Because I think the other thing that I want to express is they now have 101 feet of dock across. That is over, but it's legally non-conforming. They're taking off part of that. So the resultant is going to be 70, whatever it was. That is actually an improvement in terms of planning. It's getting closer to what is now in the 2014 new comprehensive bylaws. If you're building from scratch, you can only have 25%. They're getting closer to that. And that is considered an improvement in terms of planning. I'm just trying to help you understand where I'm coming from on this. But I really would like Mr. Sharp to help me with what we've put in place in terms of our bylaws with those legal non-conforming. So please, Mr. Sharp.
Yes, thank you, Chair Bridgman. I'll do my best to explain. There is a provision in the zoning bylaw, and I believe it's existed since the inception of the township's first zoning bylaw in 87, that essentially says where you have docks that are legal non-complying due to width, you can construct additions to those docks, provided the cumulative width of the additions themselves don't exceed the permitted maximum cumulative width, and provided that all other zoning bylaw requirements are complied with, specifically side yard setbacks and length. And those additions are reviewed cumulatively from October 11th, 1988 forward. So my understanding, based on our review of past building permits, is that the applicants or previous owners have benefited from that provision in the past. So essentially, instead of being allowed the full extent of what the bylaw would allow for an addition, they only essentially have about 8.4 feet of width that they could use to benefit from that zoning provision. But with that being said, that 8.4 feet of width within the existing envelope of that dock, that swim dock that's proposed to be enlarged, that 8.4 feet of width could extend out to 66 feet. In this case, they're essentially looking to mirror the existing width envelope. It does fall out side, I think on one side very slightly. We're talking inches, but they're looking to extend that dock 23.8 feet in width, and they're looking to extend it out to 50 feet, whereas the maximum permitted length for a dock is 66 feet. From staff's perspective, I think it is overall improvement to remove the third dock. So they'll have two docks. I think with respect to the appearance of density and built form, I think when you take, the three docks that are existing today and reduce them by one, even with the addition, I think we'd still see that as an improvement, just in terms of density and built form as it's viewed from the canoe, so to speak. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, so thank you. Now can I ask you in strictly layman's terms, because that was hard to follow, I'm sure. Let's just say they're leaving everything as it is now, but they want to extend that dock they're asking to extend. They could take that to 66 feet at the same width the dock is at now. Am I correct?
Yes, they could extend, they could have everything they have today, and they could extend the dock that they're proposing to extend. But instead of extending it by 23.8 feet in width, they could extend it by 8.4 feet in width, and they could extend that portion out to 66 feet.
So then, Chair Edwards, could I ask some of the people who are opposed to that,
Yes.
what they think about their options? Because they have the right to do what you have just said under our bylaws. So you could have a 66-foot long dock where they want to extend it. This all goes back to the non-complying. They had it a long time ago, I think. Did I get that wrong?
And I just wanted to add one point of clarification. Staff recognize that the overall size of the addition is larger than what would be permitted as of right. But I think when you compare that with the dock they're removing, it ends up being a similar size. We haven't run the exact numbers because the configuration of the docks is hard to measure without having the benefit of AutoCAD or a program like the Koning would have. But I mean, visually speaking, you can see that the size is about the same as what's there today. And they're reducing the number of docks down from 3 to 2. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Does anybody
Would you
know-
like to?
Yeah, please. Thank you. Can we please bring up the pictures that were submitted with Marie Poirier planning, please? I understand the technicality around this. We are in theory are reducing dock. What we're not taking into consideration certainly is boating and safety and building out of those docks. What we have right now are two docks that are in shallow water. You can see there's an apparatus there to put a water ski in, or jet ski rather. So those docks, even though they're wide, they're not actually into the water. There's no mooring. There's no issues with swimming around that. There's no issues with my children on that side being involved anywhere near because of the boathouse, which is, proper docking set up. That is where guests and other people, that's where they park their boats. What we're talking about here is using effectively that ball dock, that landing dock that you might have a canoe on as an excuse to build a bigger, wider dock and go out 50 feet when there's already ample boating and mooring space. To me, using that dock, as a tool to enlarge what's already there, a swim dock, again, which is disingenuous in nature, and then also coming out 50 feet just seems very excessive and unnecessary as a neighbor. Thanks.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for your indulgence, committee. I understand what you're saying. Safety and the water, and I can tell you how frustrating it is. There's no jurisdiction on the water from this township. It's federal. And that is so hard. So much of the municipality can't regulate what they would love to regulate. And that's just my personal opinion. But what I'm trying to say is I hear what you're saying, but they have the right to make that dock much longer, to more boats, to do everything else. And there is no planning argument for me to stand on to deny it on a planning basis. So I understand you're upset, but I go back to the fact that they can extend it. Maybe not the width, we could deny that, but they're still going to be able to make it a much longer dock for boats. And that's their right. So I just wanted to explain that. Thank you for indulging me.
Thank you very much. Are there any more questions? Yes. Member Green.
I have a question. Am I muted?
No, go ahead.
So one of the neighbors, I think, suggested that this go on the boathouse, and the planner said that that wasn't an option, and I just wanted to know why that is. And I wanted to know sort of the calculation of a difference between 8.5 by 66 versus whatever would be added on by 50, 23.5 by 50 in terms of square footage.
Who would like to answer that? Mr. Sharp?
I think with respect to the first question, I believe Mr. Lorenz would be the best individual to speak to that, and we can quickly try to do some calculations here with respect to the second question.
Good morning, Lisa. So from a planning perspective, if you're to look at it from today's bylaws, with legal non-conforming docks, it's a lot more difficult to move them than it is to extend portions outwards. So that's where we sort of derive this extending the one center swim dock opposed to moving all of that dock area over towards the boathouse, because that would actually create a much more dense look from the water compared to just extending the one section out to 50 feet. Again, we're not coming out the full extension either. We sort of dialed it back so that it isn't as invasive to try and not cause any issues with boat traffic as much as possible. So.
Okay, thank you. I'm just waiting on Mr. Sharp to do the calculations.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. It's somewhat difficult to measure. I would note, just looking at the site plan, shoreline structure lengths are measured from all points along the high water mark. There is a dimensional length on the proposed dock, and it measures 50 feet, but because of the configuration of the shoreline, when you measure it from all points from shore, the proposed addition doesn't actually extend beyond a 30-foot offset from the high water mark. And it's, like I said, it's somewhat difficult to measure, but if you take 23.8 and multiply that by 30, you get 714 square feet. And then if you take the 8.4 feet that they would be permitted to construct as of right and times that by 66 feet, it's 554.4 square feet. So as I had indicated in my comments to Member Bridgman earlier, the number that they'd be permitted as of right is slightly less than what they're proposing, but you have to take that in context that they're removing a portion of an existing dock as well, that they'd have the right to reconstruct one for one. So I hope that helps clarify. Thank you.
I thank you very much. Any other questions? Seeing none. Moved by member Grogan Green, second by member Brown, be it resolved that application A 43-24 HIMEL to demolish two existing docks and to reconstruct and enlarge one of the docks is hereby approved with the following variance being granted. One, to permit a maximum cumulative dock width to be 77 feet. This variance is granted as shown on a plan attached to the notice of decision. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? Go ahead.
Chair Edwards, I'm just going to say, I think they have a lot under what's a right for them for this dock. And so I can't support this application.
Okay. Okay, all those in favor? All those opposed? That's defeated. Okay, next application is A 4624. And go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A 46/24 in the name of Wilkins and GALEZOWSKI. The subject lands are known municipally as 303 9 Mile Lake. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 99 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the proposed minor variance application is to permit the construction of an accessory sleeping cabin prior to the establishment of a main dwelling. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 12 days in advance, and 2 comments were received to date. Comments were received from Tim Sopko, the township's manager of public works, stating no comment. Comments were received by Nick Schneider, the township's chief building official, stating no objection. However, a building permit is required for a sleeping cabin in excess of 10 square meters or 108 square feet. Proposed variance is summarized as shown on the screen. This table was also included in the circulation materials and can be found in the agenda package. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the application be approved subject to the following condition. That a satisfactory minor variance agreement be entered into with the township and registered on title, where the owner agrees to A, establish a main use building or dwelling within 3 years from the date of the decision of this application, or B, to make another application within 3 years from the date of the decision to permit the accessory sleeping cabin to remain prior to the establishment of a main use on the subject property, or C, to remove the accessory sleeping cabinet from the subject property if a main use / building has not been established on the subject property within 3 years from the date of decision. Staff have no further comment at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Herron. Is the applicant or applicant's agent here wish to speak on this?
Hi there. I believe is Beth here as well?
Pardon? Yes, we can hear you. Your name, address, and postal code, please.
Sorry, I'm John Lochner, 378 Lumsden Avenue, Toronto, Ontario, M4C2L7. I'm just working with the owner to put in this sleeping cabin. I would have to discuss with her around the additional terms for building a primary structure. But the idea here is basically it's a waterfront access only property. So this allows us to just establish a sort of a beachhead, a way of accessing and building around the property. So we just want to get the sleeping cabin in first.
Okay. Okay, anything else?
I think that's it for me. I'm not sure if Beth is here as well. If she
No,
wants to
that's
speak.
fine, that's fine. Okay, is there anyone else wishing to speak in support? Anyone in opposition? Okay, questions for the members? No. Moved by member Bridgman, second by member Grogan Green. Be it resolved that application A 4624 Wilkins and GALEZOWSKI to construct an accessory building sleeping cabin prior to the establishment of a main dwelling is hereby approved, with the following variance being granted. One, to permit the construction sequence of an accessory sleeping cabin prior to the establishment of a main building. This variance is granted as shown on a plan attached to the notice of decision and is subject to the following condition. One, the satisfactory minor variance agreement be entered into with the township and registered on title, wherein the owner agrees to establish a main dwelling within 3 years from the date of decision of the application, or B, to make another application within 3 years from the date of the decision to permit the accessory sleeping cabin remain prior to the establishment of a main use building on the subject property, and C, to remove the accessory sleeping cabin from the subject property if the main use/building has not been established on the subject property within 3 years from the date of decision. This approval shall be in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That's carried. Okay. Next application is A 4824 LAING, and that is Ms.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A 48/24 in the name of LAING. The subject lands are known municipally as 1191 Elgin House Road. I would like to direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 114 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the proposed minor variance application is to allow for the relocation and enlargement for a proposed single-story boathouse and associated dock. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 12 days in advance of this meeting, and 2 comments have been received to date. Comments were received from Tim Sopko, the township's manager of public works, and Nick Schneider, the township's chief building official, stating no objection to the application. The proposed variance is summarized as shown on the screen. This table was also included in the circulation materials and can be found in the agenda package. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and recommended that the application be approved subject to the following condition: that a satisfactory site plan agreement be entered into and registered on title, along with securities if required for any necessary implementation for the recommendations of the fish habitat assessment prepared by Beacon Environmental dated April 18th, 2024. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions committee might have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is the applicant or applicant's agent here wishing to speak on this?
Yes, I am. Good morning, Chair Edwards. My name is Ryan Allen. I am a professional planner with Planscape, 104 Kimberley Ave, P1L 1ZA, Bracebridge, Ontario. I became involved in this application, and maybe I'd back up. This will be deja vu for the committee. I became involved in this application after the first variance approval was granted in December. I do have a brief presentation if it's needed to show. The long and the short of the story is there's extremely shallow water depths in the location of the approved boathouse. And as a result, a relocation of the boathouse was needed instead of dredging. Consequently, the boathouse has been relocated to be 14 feet farther from shore than the original boathouse. You'll see the outline of the approved boathouse in December in orange and the new boathouse location in blue. The result of the relocation actually moves the boathouse a little bit farther from the side lot line. The original boathouse location was reviewed by Beacon Environmental. A fish habitat study was completed. That fish habitat study was then updated and also confirms no impact. The fish habitat study also reviewed the proposed dock, which I believe a permit has been submitted for. Ultimately, there are water depths shown on the site plan. You'll see inside the orange box, there are 6-inch water depths, which are approximately in the middle of the boathouse, so far insufficient for docking a boat, which is approximately 36 inches. The proposed location is slightly farther, but the boathouse is the same size, the same width. I'd be happy to answer any questions. And the next slide, I believe, shows the elevations, which are identical as the previous elevations that were presented to the committee. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in support of this application? Anyone in opposition? Question from the members? Moved by member Brown, second by member Stokes, be it resolved that application A 4824 LAING to construct a single-story boathouse is hereby approved with the following variants being granted. 1, to permit a maximum lot coverage of 4,613 square feet, 10.9% for the entire lot. And 2, to permit a maximum length of 64 feet from the first-story boathouse. These variants are granted as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision and are subject to the following condition. 1, that a satisfactory site plan agreement be entered into and registered on title, along with securities if required for any necessary implementation of the recommendations of the fish habitat assessment prepared by Beacon Environmental dated April 18, 2024. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That's carried.
Thank you, committee. Have a great day.
And the next application is A 4924, and that's it, Ms. Beamish.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A 4924 in the name of Galley. The subject lands are known municipally as 1160 Acton Island Road. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 138 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is to construct a second-story storage addition to a single-story garage. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 13 days in advance of this meeting, and 6 comments have been received to date. Comments were received from Tim Sopko, the Township's Manager of Public Works, recommending that the district be contacted regarding the reduced setback from the road. Subsequently, comments were received from the District of Muskoka stating no concerns towards the proposal. Comments were also received from Nick Schneider, the Township's Chief Building Official, stating that the setbacks to overhead hydro lines should be achieved and that a sewage system review will be completed at the time of permit application. After the circulation of comments to committee, 3 letters of support were received from area residents Mark Infusino, Richard Roel, and Eric Hauser, stating no objections or concerns regarding the application. The proposed variances are summarized as shown on the screen. This table was included in the circulation materials and can be found in the agenda package. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the application be approved. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee.
Thank you very much. Is the applicant or applicant's agent here wishing to speak on this? Yes, go ahead.
Yes, good morning, Chair Edwards and committee members. Terry Ledger, 167 Medora Street, Port Carling, P0B1J0. I am the agent for the applicant. Basically just adding a second story to an existing structure that is very close to the road. So we did speak with district quite some time ago first. And since the owners have also contacted those three neighbor letters were from all the adjacent properties to this. And I'm here to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Legend. And is there anyone else here wishing to speak in support? Anyone in opposition? Okay, are there questions from the members? Moved by member Stokes, second by member Bridgman. Be it resolved that application A 4924 for Kelly to construct a second storage addition to an existing garage and is hereby approved with the following variance being granted. One, to permit a setback of 10.5 feet at the closest point from the lot line abutting the street for a second story garage addition. And two, to permit a minimum rear yard setback of 10.5 feet at the closest point for a second story garage addition. These variances are granted as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That's carried.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And we'll take a 10-minute comfort break. Okay, I'd like to call the meeting back to order. And the next application is A5024 Spring, and that's Ms. Beamish.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A5024 in the name of Spring. The subject lands are known municipally as 1158 Greenwood Point Road, Unit 24. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 161 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is to construct a one-story dwelling and a one-story boathouse. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 14 days in advance of this meeting, and 6 comments have been received to date. Comments were received from Tim Sopko, the Township's Manager of Operational Services, stating that the proposed entrance will require an entrance permit from Operational Services, and that circular type entrances are not permitted. And if the new driveway is as proposed in the site plan, the existing entrance will need to be removed and revegetated. Comments were also received from Nick Schneider, the Township's Chief Building Official, stating no objection to the application. 4 letters of support for the application were also received from area residents Alex Tilley, Bill and Deborah Haken, Paul Leonard, and Peter Redmond and Alyssa Weaver, all stating no objection to the application. The proposed variance is summarized as shown on the screen. This table was included in the circulation materials and can be found in the agenda package. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the application be approved. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee.
Thank you very much. Is the applicant or applicant's agent wishing to speak?
Morning, Chair and Committee. My name is Ian McLaren, 247 Sterling Road, Toronto, M6R2B2, authorized agent and architect for the owners, Phil and Reza Spring, who are watching. We agree with the opinions expressed in the report. The site is well screened, suits the character of the lake and indeed Greenwood Point, as evidenced by the at least 4 letters from neighbors and support from others recently. The proposal complies with the bylaws in all other respects, setbacks, height, use, etc. We will address the concerns expressed with regards to the proposed driveway and any remediation proposed through the SPA process. And I just wanted to say that Reza and Phil, I think, have been good stewards of the site and good neighbors, as evidenced by their neighbors' support, and I think they will continue to be so. Answer any questions if you have them.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here wishing to speak in support of this application? Anyone in opposition? No? Questions from the members? Moved by member Grogan Green, second by member Brown. Be it resolved that application A5024 Spring to demolish an existing dwelling, sleeping cabin, boathouse, shed, and woodshed, and construct a new one-story dwelling and a one-story boathouse is hereby approved, with the following variances being granted. 1, permit a maximum lot coverage of 4,176 square feet, 11%, within 200 feet of the high water mark. This variance is granted as shown on a plan attached to the notice of decision. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? And it's carried. Okay, and the next application is A5224. That's Ms. Beamish.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A5424 in the name of Enshin and Siddiqman. The subject lands are known municipally as 1097 Keeler Road, Unit 1. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plans on page 186 and 187 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is to recognize an as-built single-story boathouse and an as-built dock. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 11 days in advance of this meeting, and 14 comments have been received to date. Comments were received from Tim Sopko, the Township's Manager of Public Works, and Nick Schneider, the Township's Chief Building Official, both stating no objection to the application. Comments were also received from Doug Holland, the Township's Fire Prevention Officer, providing emergency fire response times and recommending that the owners review the Fire Smart Homeowners Manual to understand how treatment to the property influence wildfire spread. A letter of objection was also received from Paul Moy, the abutting easterly property owner, and was circulated to members of committee. After circulation to committee, a letter of objection was received signed by 10 area residents, Douglas Michael Caldwell on behalf of Carol Caldwell, Mark Gazzola, Todd McLachlan, Graham Murphy, John B. Long, Rose Amato, Robert Bond, William Bond, and Paul Moy, all stating opposition to the proposed variance and the opinion that the proposed encroachment of the boathouse and dock is excessive, unreasonable, and out of character with the surrounding boathouses and properties, and requesting that committee deny this application. This letter can be read in full at the request of committee.
I wouldn't mind hearing it if it's not too long. The second letter, the first one, obviously we have.
So the letter is the same and it was just signed by all the different neighbors.
Oh, so the letter is the same as the initial.
No, sorry, the letter that was signed by the 10 neighbors is different than the one that was circulated, but it's identical between the 10 of them. Yeah.
Okay, well, it's the same letter. We don't need to hear it. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not understanding then.
I'll read this one.
Okay.
So letter of objection. In the matter of proposed zoning bylaw 2014-14, roll number 7-5-060, file number A5224, Samara Enshin and Jacob Siddiqman, we, the undersigned property owners on Dark Lake, Lake Muskoka, hereby object to the application for a proposed minor variance to zoning bylaw 2014-14 pursuant to section 45 of the Planning Act 1990, chapter P13 as amended. We are opposed to allowing the 10.5-foot variance of the minimum side yard setback for a single-story boathouse, and also opposed to allowing the 12-foot variance of the minimum side yard setback dock located at 1097 Keeler Road, Unit 1, Torrance, Lot 26, Concession 7, Lot 24, Plan M234 Wood, Township of Muskoka Lakes. Our collective opinion is that the 10.5-foot and 12-foot encroachment of the boathouse and dock in question is excessive and is deemed to be unreasonable, unrealistic, and is out of character with the surrounding boathouses and properties. We respectfully request the committee members deny this application and the owners bring their property into compliance with the provisions of the zoning bylaw as amended.
Thank you.
Is the applicant? Pardon?
I don't think she's done
Okay.
The proposed variances are summarized as shown on the screen. This table was included in the circulation materials and can be found in the agenda package. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the application be approved. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee.
Thank you very much. Is the applicant or applicant's agent here wishing to speak on this?
Yes, hi, I'm the applicant. Good morning.
Okay, go ahead, sir. Name, address, and postal code, please.
Thank you very much. My name is Jacob Sockman. Address is 40 Melrose Avenue, Toronto, Ontario, postal code M5M1Y5. I'm the applicant and owner of this property, and I appreciate the opportunity to provide committee some additional context on this application. This dock and covering structure is truly not a new development in substance. Our family acquired this property in March of 2021 in specific reliance on the issued building permit from the township to repair and restore the prior legal non-conforming use dock and boathouse that is the subject of this application and which has been situated on the shoreline in substantially the manner you see today for over 25 years. This building permit, permit number 2020-1106, is in fact still open today, and we have been continuously using best efforts in good faith to achieve compliance with this permit since the moment we acquired the property. Following our completion of the work to repair and restore this legacy structure at the beginning of the summer of 2021, the township building inspector at the time attended at the property and stated that she was very satisfied with the completed work, but required that we provide an additional site survey to confirm the side lot setback. We promptly obtained a new survey from the same surveying company that had prepared the reference survey from the year 2000 on which the building permit was issued. Unfortunately, it is this as-built survey that reflects a difference of approximately 6 inches on the required side lot setback from the eastern edge of the boathouse that has been cited by the Township Building Department as the reason why the building permit could not be closed, and which has necessitated this application for minor variance. It's noteworthy that this same as-built survey also reflects a similar minor discrepancy against the original reference survey from the year 2000 on the opposite western border of the property, indicating that the main cottage building had in fact been further set back from the property line since the year 2000 by approximately a foot. This is something that is clearly observable by any layperson not to be the case, based on the steel support structures and permanent concrete footings of the cottage that are situated on a contiguous sloping granite bedrock on which it sits. Recognizing the legitimate challenges in reconciling these minor survey differences on the pre and post-construction surveys from taken 20 years apart, we were in fact directed by the building department, by the current township building inspector last month to bring this application to resolve this matter. We trust that the township building department would not have taken us down this path, either in issuing the original permit in 2020 that we relied upon in buying the property, or in directing us to bring this application for minor variance to resolve these minor survey discrepancies if this were not in fact a reasonable and appropriate request in the circumstances. In light of this context, we respectfully hope that the committee members will exercise the pragmatic and practical perspective and judgment in recognizing that this dock and boathouse should not be viewed for purposes of this decision as new development or as any change in substance to the land use on this property, but rather that this structure as currently completed is reasonable, appropriate, best preserves this property's unique natural rock shoreline, and is substantially consistent with the visual and functional character of Dark Lake and its historical use. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else here wishing to speak in support of this application? Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application?
If I may.
Yes, you may.
Thank you very much, Chair, Committee. I just want to say right off.
I need your name, address.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Please.
Yeah, my name is Paul Moy. I'm the owner of the property, the cottage adjacent to the subject property. I live at 1097 Keeler Road. The subject property is, I'm sorry, 1093 Keeler Road. The subject property is 1097. My lot line abuts this boathouse in question, okay? What I'm telling you is that this boathouse is almost on my lot line. Okay. Now, I want to tell this committee that I have been dealing with this boathouse for 25 years. Okay. I have been under stress. I've been having anxiety. I've had sleepless nights over everything that has gone on with this boathouse. And it started in 1999 of August when the issues started, and they have not been resolved. Supposing they'll be resolved today, but it's gone on till today. Now, there's two variable components to this, the history of this boathouse. The first is all these applications that came up starting in 2099. It got to a certain point where they ended, and everything that happened with this boathouse was denied. Okay. I just want to mention a quote from just hold on a second. Just to make reference, I want to just quote one line from Steve Farner. He used to be a director of planning in October 18, 2000. Steve Farner says in an application, he says that there was a considerable amount of history to this application. Okay, so we had all this history in 2000, and you can imagine now from 2000 to 2024, how much more history is involved. It's enormous. There's nobody that should have to go through this. I don't wish it on anybody. But the stuff that I have gone through, and I have gone through with a meeting like this a long time ago in the early 2000s, I had to come here and present my case. Now, luckily, in those days, everything was denied because it was just unbelievable what this owner wanted. And I'm not talking about the present applicant, okay? I'm talking about a previous owner. Now, having said all that, do you have the pictures that I submitted?
They were included in the comments circulated. They were included in the letter circulated to you for this application.
I'll share them.
Yeah.
I do have the photos in hard copy, which I can just pass around the table also.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Thank you. The pictures I want to show you, and this is the first one. This is picture number one, and I want to take a look at the dock, okay? And you can see how it leads towards the boathouse, okay? And it probably goes about maybe 6 to 8 feet past where that person is standing. Okay, and I just want to make you aware of that because this is relevant because it obstructs the view of the lake for me. So I'll address that picture as I go through this report. What I want to talk about is the minor variance application. It has 4 tests, okay? The first test says, does it meet the general intent and purpose of the official plan? Well, no, it doesn't. When you look at policy number 12.5, 12.5 states that the shoreline structure shall not impede the immediate view of the surrounding properties as defined by the extension of the property lines into the water. And the intent of these policies also tries to ensure that lots aren't overbuilt. Well, anyways, if you look at the photograph, you can vividly see that this boathouse, and that is an old boathouse, okay? That's the original structure. It's 70 years old, and it has been since rebuilt. And when it's been rebuilt, the boathouse has moved closer to my lot line. And if you look in the report, the staff report, it will indicate that it has been moved towards the lot line. Okay, so further, that would further obstruct the view that I have. Now, if I want to see, if you guys know, if anybody here knows Dark Lake, when you're looking down Dark Lake, there's a cut that goes into Bala Bay. Now, 2/3 of the way down the dock, there is no view of the full bay. You have to go down maybe 2/3 to 3/4. And when you sit there, that's when you're going to see the full view of the lake. And if you look at a photo, the picture in the report, the staff reports on page 4, okay? If you look at the dock, take a look at where all the chairs are. All the chairs are located at the far end of the dock because that is where I have the view of the lake. Okay, if you have page 4. Yeah.
Please, your 5 minutes is up.
Okay. The other thing is, there in this report, there is absolutely nothing on the history or background of this whole situation, this whole boathouse. If you look at it, it says on page 7, it lists background. There is absolutely no background in this report. It's very deficient. And I want to also say about the photographs in this picture. About 3/4 of the photographs in this picture, in this report, are totally irrelevant. They mean absolutely nothing. And I just want to mention that if you look at page 5, okay, that picture is totally irrelevant to what we're talking about here. Page 6, not page 6, I'm sorry. Look at page 8. Look at page 9. Look at page 10. Those photographs are all irrelevant. Now, if you had to replace those pictures with the history of this boathouse, you would get a better understanding of what has been going on here. Okay?
Thank you very much.
And just what, can I make one quick?
Just one quick and that
Yes.
is it.
Listen, ladies and gentlemen, this is not a minor variance. A minor variance is minor. This is 12 feet. This is 10.5 feet. This is not minor. This is excessive. It's unreasonable, unrealistic. It doesn't meet the criteria of a minor variance. I want you to take that into consideration. Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in opposition to this application? No? Okay. Sir, I'm going to let you have a last comment on that if you would like. The owner would you like to say anything?
Sure, thank you. No, my comment is that we acquired this property in the year 2021 on the basis of a permit issued in 2020. And while I can certainly recognize and understand, and it's unfortunate that my neighbor has had a difficult past with an owner, 3 owners prior in their building application experience, it really shouldn't bear on our ability to, reasonably comply with the permit that the property was sold with and based upon. And we really believe that we have operated with the best of intentions as a good neighbor. And in fact, we've had nothing but compliments by all of the people on the lake, including my neighbor, about how lovely the improvement is and how nice it is to see someone finally looking after this boathouse and this waterfront the way we have. So we really feel that we use this waterfront in the most responsible way possible. And we really just hope that this can finally put a clean start to this boathouse and put all that behind us.
Okay, thank you. Other questions from the members? Yes.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. In response to Mr. Mooey talking about not being able to look down the bay this way, the planning is about straightforward, your property line. So the neighbors, it's straight out to the lake. So I guess what I'm trying to say to you is if you're on your property and you're looking this way and you can't see any farther, that doesn't constitute, in my humble opinion, part of the Planning Act's, what's the term I'm looking for? It's not a consideration. That's what I'm trying to say to you. But I guess my next, just so I can summarize this, and maybe you can help me. Everything is this is a grandfather boathouse. So all we're really talking about is a few inches that have been discovered from the building permit that was given, that we're asking for, because they would never have to move it back to what our current requirements are, Mr. Mooey. So anyway, I just it's a few inches that we're talking about. I just want to confirm that, Chair Edwards.
Would you like to confirm that? It's 0.7 feet, I believe.
Yeah, thank you. I feel like I should likely address some of Mr. Moy's comments, just because I feel like there may be some confusion around the past history. Staff did do a fulsome review of the history of the property. And it looks like in 2000, there was or I should say 1999, there was a bylaw that was proposed to tear down and replace the existing dock and boathouse with a new dock and boathouse. It would be, the dock would be over with, the boathouse would be over with, and I believe the lot coverage within 200 feet wasn't compliant as well. That bylaw was defeated by council at that time. It never went anywhere. There were no other past approvals associated with the property. We've reviewed the municipal property assessment information, and just based off memory, I believe it indicated that the existing boathouse has been in existence since 1965. So I think what's happened here, and again, the applicant may wish to speak to this or further clarify, but there was a building permit that was taken out to replace the dock underneath the boathouse. At that time, I believe a site plan was submitted that was prepared by an Ontario land surveyor. There was an inspection that was undertaken by the Township Development Services staff. It was determined that the dock and boathouse appeared to be closer than indicated on the sketch. A new survey was prepared, an actual survey, not a sketch, but a new survey was prepared by an Ontario land surveyor, and it was determined that the dock and boathouse were slightly closer to the side lot line projection, and hence the applicants have opted to submit a minor variance application to recognize it. It's uncertain whether the dock and boathouse actually moved closer to the side lot line or if it was just a discrepancy between the sketch and survey that had been prepared. But that's my knowledge of the history of the file. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sharp. Any other questions? Moved by member Bridgman, second by member Stokes. Be it resolved that application A 5224 Itchen and Sketchman to recognize an as-built single-story boathouse and dock is hereby approved with the following variance being granted. 1, to permit a side yard setback of 4.5 feet at the closest point for a single-story boathouse, and 2, to permit a side yard setback to be 3 feet at the closest point for a dock. These variances are granted as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That is carried. Okay. The next application is A 5324 Smith. That is Ms. Beamish.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A 5324 in the name of Smith. The subject lands are known municipally as 1058 Whitings Road, Unit 15. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plans on pages 205 and 206 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is to demolish an existing playhouse and reconstruct an existing dwelling. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 11 days in advance of this meeting, and 3 comments have been received to date. Comments were received from Tim Sopko, the Township's Manager of Public Works, Nick Schneider, the Township's Chief Building Official, stating no objection to the application. Comments were also received from Doug Holland, the Township's Fire Prevention Officer, providing emergency fire response times and recommending that the owners review the Fire Smart Homeowners Manual to understand how treatments to the property influence wildfire spread. The proposed variances are summarized as shown on the screen. This table was included in the circulation materials and can be found in the agenda package. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the application be approved, subject to the following. 1, that the existing playhouse /shed be removed as intended. And 2, that a satisfactory site plan agreement be entered into and registered on title along with securities for retention of vegetation and plantings to retain and revegetate the shoreline buffer. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee.
Thank you very much. Is the applicant or their agent here wishing to speak on this?
Morning, my name is Doug Smith. We're at 1058 Whitings Road, number 15, Torrance, Ontario, PLC 1MO. Thank you for your consideration of this matter. It's an old family cottage that we're trying to restore and preserve as much as possible. We recognize that when it was originally built in 1948 or 1946, it was largely built with scraps of material that could be obtained after the Second World War. And as a result, there's the cottage structure itself and the foundations are starting to fail, requiring some improvements to the main structure. We thank you for staff's consideration and approval of this matter. We're seeking a slight increase in the site coverage. And we've also reduced, as is indicated in the application, any impact to the north side yard setback by reducing the structure in that area. We have asked for some relief there instead of having a flat roof to go to a gabled roof so that it's more in compliance with the design loads that we experience here in this part of the province. The one question I do have is that since the site is already heavily vegetated, to enter into the site plan agreement process, as staff has indicated, would be very difficult to plant much more vegetation on site, as we have a very limited area that is open along the shoreline with more smaller shrubs and indigenous plants. It has been more heavily vegetated since my grandparents acquired the site over the years, and we have taken to great extent and concern to planting additional cedar trees on the north side so that there is more of a privacy barrier between ourselves and our neighbors to the north. And we do have our neighbors here to the north to talk about any concerns that they may have. So with that, I would respectfully, consider your approval of this, but would hope that, the onerous conditions of a site plan agreement, which we normally would not have to, but for, asking for some consideration on the increased site coverage of a few hundred square feet, would not be applicable in this situation if we were to apply for a building permit. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in support of this application?
Hello to everyone. My name is Simon Kersnick. We're at 1058 Whitings Road, Unit 17, Torrance, Ontario, P0C1M0. And we're their neighbors sharing our northern boundary together. And I just wanted to state that we don't have any concerns or problems with in supporting their revision that they need to proceed with their project.
Right.
That's
Thank you very
basically,
much, sir.
yeah. Okay.
Any
Thanks.
questions? Is there anyone else here wishing to speak in support? Okay, bring them in then, please.
Good morning.
Good morning. Your name, address, and postal code, please.
My name is Tim Shepard. My address is 1058-13 Whitings Road. I am next door neighbor to the south, and we support this application wholeheartedly and look forward to the improvements being done on the property. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in support? Anyone in opposition? Okay, other questions from the members? Yes.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. Mr. Smith, I'm looking at a picture from your dock back to your cottage, and there is no vegetation. It's wide open. So I think I'm going to perhaps ask Mr. Sharp, but I believe that's why we're asking for revegetation. So Mr. Sharp, is that correct?
Yeah, thank you, Chair Bridgman. Yes, there are numerous policies in our official plan that speak to a vegetated shoreline extending 50 feet back from the lake for the full width of our waterfront residentially zoned properties. In this particular instance, Ms. Beamish had done her site visit, and as you can see on page 192 of our staff report, figure 1, there is quite a gap in the shoreline buffer. And it looks like it's within an area that could be occupied by native species plantings, be it trees and a mix of shrubs. So as part of the approval of this application and in accordance with those official plan policies, we're looking for some revegetation of the property. And I think it'll result in an overall net improvement. Thank you.
Yeah, I just might add that we've already taken upon ourselves to, when the property was originally purchased by my grandfather, there were many birch trees there. And we've been attempting to reestablish some of those birch trees in that area. We've got several of them that are about this tall. So if those kinds of measures are applicable to and approved by the township staff, we don't have any problem with that. That we're already heavily vegetated. We're trying to add to it where possible, but if the full extent and requirements of the site plan agreement, we're not sure if there's a lot of trees that are required to be planted. It's already heavily forested, so I'm not sure how those trees might survive given the heavy canopy that we have around the cottage and the structure.
Thank you very much, sir. Yes.
Chair Edwards, if we could just, we're sharing on a screen the photo that I was referring to. So if the applicant would like to point out where the birch trees are in this gap, that might be helpful because I'm not seeing them.
They're very tiny. They're hard to grow.
There's about 3 or 4 in this area. There's 2 or 3 in this area here. There's half there for huckleberry, blueberry that's been planted here, as well as other native species to help to reforest it. But a lot of this area is under cover of cedars, so it's very difficult to get anything to grow into there. See that this is a very of 120 feet of frontage. This is the only area of the shoreline that is not treed, if you will, at this point in time. The rest of the area and the site is very heavily vegetated, so it does get a little problematic. We're fully supportive of. We're in full support of vegetating and preserving the habitat that's there, and we've been working very hard to do that within the natural considerations of how we get trees to grow. We have a lot of trees that will grow up but will then die off because the canopy is so heavy.
All right, thank you very much. Yes.
Thank you, committee. I would say in this case, obviously, with respect to the condition, if you want to impose it as recommended by staff, you certainly can do so. You can also remove the condition, but in this case, in certain situations, what we'll do is we'll indicate on a site plan as part of a registered agreement that it be basically a no mow area, if you want to call it that, an area where the vegetation is left to establish itself on its own. So that may be a one suggestion or one consideration if you do impose the condition that may be done along with perhaps some additional tree plantings, but that can be discussed with the applicant at that time. Thank you.
Well, that's basically a standard condition that we put on when there's that. So I'm sure staff and the owner can reach an agreement on that. So if we leave it in, I don't think it's harmful. It's just a case of a protection. What does the committee feel? How do they feel on that? Yes, Member Green.
The only concern I have about a no mow is more about how about a no trimming? Because the problem with no mow, I like it, but you know, somebody can just come along with a hedge trimmer and remove the tops off of all of the birch and they never get going. You know, it looked to me like that site would be perfect for a mix of white pine and some other species. So I'm all in favor of a good site plan.
Right, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Moved by member Brown, second by member Grogan Green. Be it resolved that application A 5324 Smith to demolish an existing playhouse and reconstruct and enlarge an existing dwelling is hereby approved with the following variance being granted. 1, permit a maximum lot coverage of 2,227 square feet, 11% of the entire lot. And 2, to permit a side yard setback to be 5 feet at the closest point for a dwelling. These variances are granted as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision and are subject to the following conditions. 1, that the existing playhouse shed be removed as intended, and 2, that a satisfactory site plan agreement be entered into and registered on title along with securities for retention of vegetation and planting to retain and revegetate the shoreline buffer. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That is carried. And I will say, you know, it's so nice when somebody talks to their neighbors and get their approval. It makes it so much easier for you and getting everything through. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The last application to be heard is minor variance application A 5424 in the name of Allison. The subject lands are known municipally as 1036 Brandy Crest Road. I would like to direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 220 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the proposed minor variance is to construct a new 2-story dwelling. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 12 days in advance of this meeting, and 2 comments were received to date. Comments are received from Tim Sopko, the Township's Manager of Public Works, and Nick Schneider, the Township's Chief Building Official, stating no objection to the application. The proposed variances are summarized on the screen as shown. This table was also included in the circulation materials and can be found in the agenda package. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the application be approved. Staff have no further comment on this time at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much. See, applicant's agent here wishes to speak on this. Yes, go ahead. Your name, address, and postal code, please.
Okay, Debbie Allison, and address is 1068 Brandy Crest Road, Port Carling, Ontario, POB 1JO. And I am just here on behalf of my son as he is working. My husband wanted to clarify the amount of feet that we're looking for on this minor variance. And I'm going to let him do that because he has a better understanding of that than I do.
Yes, my name's Greg Allison, Debbie's wife. Just to bring the attention to the committee that we already had a second minor variance on this. So actually, we're only asking for example, variance A, we're asking for additional 5.5 feet. For B, we're asking for the 4 feet. For C, it says 19, but we're only asking, we already have approval for 39 feet from the second minor variance, so we're asking for additional 8 feet. And for D, we're asking for the 9 feet. And this came as a result of a point-to-point survey, which we didn't originally have, and the building inspector requested it, and that's why we found that we were off.
We did get one as requested.
And we did get one as requested. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone else in support? Anyone in opposition? Are there questions from the members? Moved by member Stokes, second by member Bridgman, be it resolved that application A 5424 Allison to construct a dwelling is hereby approved with the following variance being granted. 1, to permit a side yard setback of 28 feet at the closest point for a dwelling. 2, to permit a rear yard setback of 16 feet at the closest point for a dwelling. 3, to permit an exterior side yard setback of 31 feet at the closest point for a dwelling, and to permit a setback from a lot line abutting an open road allowance to be 16 feet at the closest point for a dwelling. These variances are granted as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Thank you.
All those in favor? That's carried.
Thank you.
You're welcome.